We've talked about brand. We've talked about speed. We've talked about sales follow-up. We've talked about operational discipline or the best production. We've talked about retail versus insurance. And now we're going to get to the real multiplier, something that we all struggle with, something that I struggle with. Let's talk about leadership and talent. How do you find the right people? Put the right people in the right seats. Sounds great. Way harder. None of those things we talked about actually scale without people and the right people. So let me ask you a question. As your company grows, how are you growing? Because a lot of contractors build a business that depends on them. I am guilty of that. And that works for a while. But that's just a job. You have a job. Eventually, you're going to hit a ceiling. Here's the difference between a small business and a scalable business. Every small business survives because the owner is great. Business will thrive without the owner. So it's not just surviving, but it's thriving and growing without the owner present. That's the real goal. Whether you're looking to sell the business or keep the business for your kids, you will exit the business one day. So that's the real goal. Does your business thrive without you? So again, it's not just can the business survive without me, can it actually grow without me? This episode is really for that $4 to $10 million company that's maybe struggling with these kind of things. Maybe $3 million, but you know when you have that pressure point. This is a stage where leadership starts to matter more than just your hustle. If you're doing $4, $5, $6 million and you're not making real money, you don't have a revenue problem. You have a leadership problem. And I say that from experience. Again, going back to the previous episode, talking about like the first years in business, one-man show, $1 million, 2016. That was a lot of money. Didn't make any money, profit money. So there were seasons where I was the bottleneck. I wasn't delegating the right things. I did not always put the right people in the right seats. But then I started to figure it out. And when that happens, you feel like you're constantly putting out fires without putting the right people in the right seats. You feel like you're always putting out fires. You're not winning. Let's talk about one of the biggest mistakes I see and I made. Promoting your best sales rep into management. It's not always the right decision. It doesn't mean they're the right fit. Sometimes that does work, but a lot of times it does not. And then you're scratching your head. Well, now I got to find somebody. So being a great producer, sales producer, is not the same thing as being a great leader. Sales reps are wired differently. They're hunters. They're in the DISC assessment, they're Ds. They're direct. They're going for it. Managers need to be builders and team players. They need to be coaches. They need to be system thinkers. If you promote the wrong person, you don't just lose a manager. You lose your best salesperson too, because they're producing all these things, but they're not managing the rest of the sales team. So again, I mentioned DISC assessments. This is where tools like the DISC assessment become extremely valuable. Doesn't matter which personality type what assessment tool you're using, use something and stick to it and then understand it. You need to understand personality types for everyone on your team. Who is wired for leadership? Who thrives with structure? Who drives accountability? These are all really important things. So who naturally coaches others? Putting the right personality in the right seat changes everything. It did for my business. Sometimes you need outside help. People like Angel Hinkie of Bricks Recruiting specialize in finding leadership talent for companies like yours. Just a quick plug for him, did a podcast with him. He's great. You need to find somebody who can help you find the right people for the right seats, because hiring leadership is different than hiring production roles or sales roles. Leadership is much different. You're not just hiring skills. You're hiring mindset, ownership mentality. These are different personality types. They must have alignment with your vision for the company and the company vision. So around that $4 to $5 million mark, you need to start thinking seriously about management layers. Who owns the sales leadership? Who owns the production leadership? Who owns accountability? These are all things that you have to think about as an owner now. You don't have a job, you're an owner. Because if you own everything, growth eventually stalls. Again, did it with me. I had to learn this. Leadership is about clarity. Who owns what? So what are the expectations? Do you know? What does success look like for those leaders? It's completely different than sales and production. How do you even measure that success if you've identified it already? So this brings us to KPIs, or key performance indicators, different than you're normally used to seeing. You have leaders whose job is to watch the numbers, not casually, not like if they want to. Do you have someone who actually understands the numbers daily? Are they able to actually help you see that daily numbers, the weekly numbers, the monthly numbers? The leaders who care about profitability at every level of revenue. We talked about the first $1 million of gross profit. Transparency about profitability in your business is a huge thing that leaders must understand and know how to move that in the right direction. Because remember, the theme of this entire series is that we're not chasing revenue. We're chasing gross profit.
Here's how roofers make it home for dinner every single night without losing a single sale, even when they're one-man shows. Automate your communication with ProLine, the only communication-first CRM for roofers. Because when you fix your communication, you'll sell more jobs. Your weekends will smell more like sunscreen and backyard barbecues than that crappy gas station coffee. And all you got to do is ask these roofers.
Or we had about 200% growth, and I attribute that to incorporating ProLine.
But just with one automation, I was able to get 25 Google reviews.
It's been absolutely insane how quickly we were able to grow.
Now, ProLine's not going to win the beauty pageant, but it will save your Saturday. Now, back to the show.
Real leaders will help you answer questions like, what does it take to hire another sales rep? How much does that cost? And what do they have to produce to make them valuable for the company? When are we ready to expand? What profitability and revenue and number of leads, all those KPIs that you're normally checking, when are we ready? And then are we actually profitable enough to grow? What systems need to be in place first before we do all those things? That's leadership thinking. But let's be honest, most people in the roofing space think it's just about performance. Leadership isn't just about performance. It's about people and the right kind of people. Do your team members know their purpose? Do they understand their role very clearly? And for me, my personality, do they feel like they're winning every day? Because here's something that most owners miss. Your goal should not just be making the next $1 million of gross profit. Your goal should be wanting to build a place where great people never want to leave. Over and over again, you see this. People leave because of X, Y, Z. It doesn't mean that this work is easy. Roofing is hard. Roofing business ownership is hard. But do people actually feel valued? Do they feel clarity in their role? Do they feel purpose? That comes from leadership. Culture matters here. Culture is not a few words on a wall. Here's your mission statement and your core values. Culture is how people feel every day when they show up to work. This is where people like Reggie Brock and Propel Consulting can actually make a huge difference. Again, shout out, but good things to say about Reggie. Did a podcast with him. He's amazing. Culture is very important for every business because culture is not accidental. It's never accidental. It's designed. Strong culture attracts strong talent, strong leaders. Strong talent drives the growth. When leadership is right, everything gets easier. There's less chaos. There's less turnover. There's better decisions or profitability. Better culture is more enjoyment for everyone involved. I want to say something important as we close this series. Growth is not just about making more money. It's about building a business that actually feels good to run. One where you're not just carrying the weight of that business alone, where your leaders lead, where your systems work, and where your people thrive. So let's recap the entire series. Episode 1, we build the brand and trust. Trust makes you the obvious choice. Episode 2, speed wins, speed to lead, fast responses, capture the opportunity. Episode 3, we sales and follow up. Consistency converts leads into revenue. Episode 4, operational discipline. Protect the profit after the sale. Episode 5, we talked about retail versus insurance. We want to control your revenue and build stability. And now this episode is episode 6, leadership and talent. Because people are the multiplier. If you want to make your first $1 million in gross profit and keep growing profitably every year, you need all 6 of these things. Not just one, not just 2, all of them working together. It's really hard. But here's my final thought. We all know the goal is not just to build a business that depends on you. The goal is to build a business that grows because of the people you've empowered. That's leadership. That's legacy. And that's how you build something that lasts. Thanks for being part of this series. I'm John DeLaurier, co-founder of ProLine. Now, go build something great. If you made it through the entire series, here's what I want you to understand. Building a profitable roofing company is not about one magic tactic. It's not just leads, not just sales, it's not just operations. It's the combination of everything working together. Brand builds trust. Speed captures opportunity. Sales follow-up converts leads. Operations protect your profit margin. Retail creates control. And leadership multiplies everything. This series was about one goal, helping you reach your first $1 million in gross profit, and then doing it again and again with less chaos and more clarity. Because revenue is loud, but profit is freedom. The companies that win in 2026 and beyond won't be the ones chasing the next storm. They'll be the ones building real systems, real teams, and real leadership. If you take away one thing away from this entire series, let it be this. You don't build a great roofing company by working harder. You build it by building better. Now, go build something that lasts.